Hey there, we are back. You are listening to Flash Forward, a Defenders of the Earth retrospective. I'm your host, Patrick Cadigan. Join me as I revisit each episode of the series, breaking down the stories, characters, themes, and maybe digging just a bit into the lore that gave this series its moment in 80s animated television. Whether you're a longtime fan who remembers watching its first run, or discovering the show for the first time and wondering how you ever missed it to begin with, this is your chance to flash forward and back into a world of heroes, villains, and gloriously 80s retro action adventure. So let's get started. And here we are, jumping right back into episode 12, this one entitled The Mind Warriors Part 2. The original air date for this particular episode was Monday, September 22nd, 1986. As in the last episode, this one was written by Evelyn A.R. Gabay. The last time that we talked about her writing credits, we listed a few from the 80s, and believe me, there was a lot. Some of the additional ones in the 80s that she had worked on, she wrote an episode for Alvin and the Chipmunks. She did multiple episodes for DuckTales. As she transitioned into the 90s, she was writing multiple episodes for The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. There was an episode, apparently, of Where's Waldo, which I didn't even know that was a TV series. She managed to write a lot for Beetlejuice, a few episodes for The Mask, one episode for Mega Man, and one episode for Spider-Man, the animated series. But again, that's by no means her entire catalog. There is still many, many more to go. And in fact, it looks like as she went into the late 90s, she started writing for live action TV shows as well. We're going to see everybody in this episode, and in fact, we are introduced to a new character, which I will address later on. This is Ubor, the rebel from the planet Mongo. But without further ado, let's jump right into The Mind Warriors Part 2. Act 1. We're at Ice Station Earth. Octon is giving Ming the obligatory exposition dump about the alien warhead from the last episode still being in the hands of the Defenders, along with the fact that the battle simulation override didn't exactly go as planned. If nothing else, Ming is amused because he argues he's made a pretty important discovery. With that, we're introduced to the Star of Mongo, a crystal with a unique molecular structure. Ming has now incorporated this crystal into the override device and plans to use it to create real warriors from Kshin's mind, which has a dual advantage. A, help get the doomsday device back, and B, destroy the Defenders of the Earth. When Octon asks respectfully how Ming plans to get a hold of Kshin, Ming responds that he'll use Kshin's love for Zuffy the space alien and lure him into a trap. Ming then orders Octon to have Garrix find the Zuffoid. After all, he has work to do and a planet to conquer. At Monitor, from the control center of the battle simulation room, Rick is asking the young Defenders if they're ready for another one of Kshin's mind simulations. LJ, Jeddah, and Zuffy the space alien agree, apparently having already fixed the simulator, and Kshin comments to his best buddy that this one's for him. The simulation starts, and the trio find themselves in a throne room. Our furry alien friend jumps onto the throne and is clearly happy to be there. Both LJ and Jeddah are turned into loyal servants and playfully bow to their new master. From the control room, Rick comments to Kshin how much the Great Purple One is enjoying himself, but Kshin laughs it off, saying he hasn't seen anything yet. Focusing his attention even more, Kshin imagines a cake for his friend, but upon eating it, the system malfunctions and the simulation stops. Kshin is clearly annoyed, and Rick promises that he'll work to fix it. Right after school, the remaining trio come back into the control room, and Jeddah comments to Kshin that there is one unhappy small alien creature in their midst, but the little purple furball relents and everyone has a good laugh. Later on, the Defender kids are at school, and so too is Zuffy the space alien. Kshin tells the extraterrestrial imp that he's not allowed to go to school, but not to worry, because the two will be reunited later. As the Zuffoid begins walking down the street, he approaches an alley and conveniently catches a glimpse of a, ready for it, female Zuffoid. We quickly figure out that this particular alien is being controlled by Ming, who was monitoring the exchange. As the horny alien is following the fake tail farther into the alley, he is immediately scooped up by Garrix. We time jump to Kshin's return from school, and he's looking for his wing thing. With no luck, Kshin tells Rick, who's clearly too busy to be disturbed, that he's going into Central City to find his good old Palaroo. From Central City, Kshin still can't locate his space alien pal and wonders aloud where he might be. Kshin has an aha moment. A good idea, not the band. When he catches a glimpse of the tired and true 80s staple, the arcade. Kshin reasons that his alien compatriot might be there because he loves the game Space Conquerors. Kshin runs into some friends who are obviously playing Galaga and ask if they have seen any familiar, friendly aliens. Both answer in the negative, but Kshin sees the deluxe model of the Space Conqueror arcade game and wants to take a look for his missing friend there. Upon entering, Ming greets Kshin from the video screen, and Kshin is clearly confused.
I have been waiting for you, little defender.
Ming!
Come in. Sit down.
How did you know I'd be here?
Ming knows all. If you ever want to see that Zuffoid pest again,
Zuffy!
you will do exactly as I tell you.
Later, it's a dark and stormy night, and Kshin is waiting in the rain. One of Ming's scout ships lands, and Garrix appears and pulls Kshin into the cockpit, and the two fly off. At Ice Station Earth, Garrix presents Kshin, and Ming turns from his throne to reveal he and Zuffy the space alien have been hanging out. Then, a mechanical door in the floor opens with a tunnel falling from the ceiling, sending a blast of Arctic air rising into a void. Ming comments that he knows Zuffoids hate the cold before he holds the alien into this vacuum. The little scrapper takes a chunk out of Ming's finger, who promptly lets him go. Swept into the vacuum, we watch as the Zuffoid ultimately lands out in the Arctic snow. Unbothered, Ming orders Octon to hook Kshin to the override device. Futilely, Kshin tries to make an escape, but Octon simply snatches him up with his octo arms and is forced into the device chair. With the helmet in place and the battle simulator in view, Ming is excited to put Kshin's imagination to good use. Ming commands Octon to turn on the override device and locate Kshin's worst fighters that he can find. Ming explains to Kshin what he wants, and from the view screen we see the battle simulator turn on and shapes begin to take form. Act 2. From out of the battle simulator comes 6 imposing new characters.
Radiant, master of weapons.
I shall destroy Flash Gordon.
Zelza, demon of darkness.
Mandrake's illusions are no match for my superior magic.
By Ninja, the ultimate hand-to-hand combat warrior.
I am stronger than Lothar and faster than LJ. Burrito!
Ripper with the strength of wild beasts.
The Phantom's 10 tiger ghosts are no match for my beast powers.
Jammerhead, whose telepathic thought waves are designed to control Jedda's mind.
My powerful thought force will destroy her mind.
And Neutron Man, whose very touch is deadly.
I will turn Rick Gordon's body to dust with a touch of my atomizing hand.
At Monitor, Dynak X informs the Defenders that the deactivation sequence for the Doomsday warhead is almost complete. LJ enters and asks if anyone has seen Kshin. Rick mentions that he was going into Central City. Flash wants everyone to take a break as he is no longer worried that Ming will get a hold of the warhead. Suddenly, Jeddah hears laughter, and the group turns to find the newly created anti-defenders atop the warhead. Radiarm introduces his group and informs the defenders that they have been created for Ming from Kshin's imagination. Mandrake is furious at the idea that Ming is holding his adopted son prisoner. Radiarm claims that the warhead is now the property of Ming, but Flash is quick to tell him that they'll have to go through him to get it. Radiarm is not worried and confronts his enemy, with Flash pivoting to tell Rick and Jeddah to protect the warhead. Following orders, the two position themselves around the device, but they're confronted by their doppelgangers. When Jeddah attempts to use debris from a nearby materials mover, Jammerhead sends out a hypnotic pulse, which forces Jeddah to turn the debris on herself. Luckily, Rick is there to quickly move her to safety. In the melee, Bi Ninja moves to intercept the warhead, and when confronted by LJ and Lothar, makes quick work of both of them. Flash continues to tussle with Radiarm and Mandrake with Zalzar. At one point, Flash calls for the group to follow him, and they end up at the base of the warhead. Flash instructs the group to tip the warhead, causing an energy feedback discharge, bringing down some of the ceiling and equipment around the room, thus blocking the escape route the defenders are using. Having regrouped at the control room, the defenders discover that the Mind Warriors have taken the warhead, and Flash worries aloud that perhaps this time they may have been defeated. Back at Ice Station Earth, Ming is crediting Radiarm for the success of their mission. Ming also gives credit to Octon for manipulating Kshin through the override device. Ming then commands Octon to prepare his throne room for departure to his secret asteroid base. Kshin wants to know the location of his alien pal, but Octon simply tells him that's unimportant. Outside of Ice Station Earth, we see Zuffy the space alien making his way through the frozen landscape, only to be grabbed by a large hand from Destination Unknown. From inside Ice Station Earth, Ming, once again, reminds us of his plan to take over the Earth using the Doomsday warhead. He then launches his throne room into space en route to the asteroid base. Back at Monitor, Dynak X sounds the alarm that the Mind Warriors have returned and are inside the base. Flash wants to raise the defense shields, however, Dynak X tells him that the Mind Warriors have already destroyed them. Entering the control room, Radiarm and the Mind Warriors attack, forcing the defenders to fall back to their launch bay. The Defender kids load up onto a rocket ship, with Flash telling them that they need to find and rescue Kshin, as he is the key to defeating the Mind Warriors. Rick pleads with his father to let him stay to help, but Flash tells him that they'll be able to handle what the Mind Warriors throw at them. As they're taking off, Rick tells his father to be careful. Just then, the Mind Warriors burst into the launch bay, ready for the attack. Act 3. The Mind Warriors note the escape of the Defender kids from the base, but Bi Ninja is not worried because the warhead is already in Ming's hands at the asteroid base and focuses attention to destroying the Defenders. The Phantom attempts to take out Jammerhead, but to little effect. Lothar spars with Bi Ninja, Flash with Radiarm, and Mandrake with the Neutron Man. Meanwhile, from their rocket ship, the Defender kids attempting to locate Ice Station Earth, Rick tells the group he is tracking a power surge that's north of their current location. The group lands, and their ship converts into a boring machine that makes its way into a nearby snow mound and down into caverns below. Garax, from his observation post, is monitoring their progress. He's not worried, though, because he's convinced the kids will get lost in a maze of ice tunnels. Sure enough, a little while later, the kids are out of their ship and completely lost. Grabbing some handy laser pistols, they begin to make their way through the tunnels on foot. No sooner when they start, they are confronted by a large, unknown alien who shoots them with an energy blast that encases the group in ice. From Monitor, the adult defenders are working to barricade their control room. Thanks to Phantom, Flash has an idea to trick the Mind Warriors into thinking they've defeated their adversaries. Flash commands Dynamic X to help the Mind Warriors think they've killed the defenders. From outside the control room, the Mind Warriors blast their way in and one by one take out each one of their enemies. Convinced they've succeeded, the Mind Warriors leave to tell Ming of their supposed victory, while the bodies laying on the floor begin to disappear. Moments later, Dynamic X tells the team the Mind Warriors are gone and the real team emerges from the hidden floor compartment. Lothar is quick to give Flash credit for the ruse, but Flash ropes in Dynamic X and Mandrake for using both holograms and illusions. Flash then tells Dynamic X to track the Mind Warrior ship as it returns to Ming's asteroid base so they'll be able to determine its location. In an ice cave in the Arctic, the Defender kids are reunited with Zuffy the space alien and meet Ubor, who tells the group he's a rebel from Mongo. Noting the visual similarities between the two aliens, Jedha asks if Ubor is also a Zuffoid. Ubor says his people evolved from Zuffoids millions of years ago, but when Ming conquered their land, he is now the last one of his kind. Jedha asks Ubor if he knows Kshin's location, and the alien answers in the affirmative and tells the group to follow him. Ubor points out a tunnel and tells the group it will lead directly to Ming's throne room. As it turns out, the kids make their way into the battle override room and are immediately confronted by an Octon-controlled Kshin. Octon instantly calls on the Mind Warriors to form and begins to attack the kids. Jedha manages to evade Jammerhead and makes her way to Kshin, imploring him to help them. Octon responds that Kshin serves Ming, but Rick isn't buying it and reminds Kshin that he's a defender. As Jedha continues to encourage him, Kshin begins to find the strength to resist Octon's control and makes the Mind Warriors in the room disappear, much to the delight of his teammates. Octon demands the return of the Mind Warriors, but Rick pulls out his laser gun, fires towards the tentacle arm still holding Kshin, and physically frees his teammate. The reunited quartet then make their escape.
Sire, the defenders have escaped with Kshin and your override device.
No matter. The warhead is almost reassembled. By the time the defenders take action, it will be too late.
At Monitor, all the defenders have now reunited, and Mandrake is particularly glad that his adopted son is safe. Flash warns everyone that they'll still need to deal with the threat of the warhead, but Kshin is quick to posit that with the override device, perhaps he can project his imagination onto the defenders, making them as strong as their counterparts were. Dynamic X is quick to point out how dangerous that would be, but Flash relays it's their only option. With the override device connected to the battle simulator and Flash connected in as well, Kshin worries if his creations will be strong enough. Flash is prepared with a "go get 'em" speech that is all Kshin needs to hear, and the device is powered on. Kshin notes that because Radiarm was the master of all weapons, he will imagine Flash as the deflector of all weapons. Flash begins to glow and tells everyone he feels invincible. As their ship flies closer to the asteroid base, Kshin uses his mind to teleport everyone inside the base, each with their own new set of powers. From his throne room, Ming is giving his usual plot relay speech to make sure everyone is on the same page. Suddenly, the defenders appear, and Ming instantly recognizes that they're using his override device to make themselves stronger. Radiarm confronts Flash, but he's not worried, as he will be able to resist any weapon the evil Mind Warrior throws at him. Radiarm fires, but his onslaught backfires against this new version of Flash and is instantly destroyed. Mandrake dispatches Zalzar, LJ and Lothar take out by Ninja, Jedha makes short work of Jammerhead, Rick easily takes care of Neutron Man, and the Phantom body slams Ripper back to his component parts. Ming tells the team that although they've defeated the Mind Warriors, they're too late to stop the Doomsday warhead and begins its launch from the base. As the warhead makes its way, Flash tells the team they've got one last mission for their new superpowers and teleports away. At once, Ming launches his throne room to leave the asteroid base. The defenders have now teleported to the outside of the warhead. Rick pulls open the control door and makes quick work of the navigation system, turning the warhead back on the asteroid base, and the two are destroyed. From the throne room, Ming doesn't appear to be upset because, hey, the defenders are now really dead, so all is right with the world. Garax is quick to jump in that he's picking up on an outside signal. From Ming's navigation monitor, he sees the defenders on their ship and is pissed they're still alive. Flash tells him that Kshin managed to save the day because of his own override device, which Kshin jumps in to say is now destroyed. As a last screw you, Flash tells Ming that they'll always be around when Ming doesn't mind his own business. The end. So I started off with thinking that this was not as strong an episode as part one. But by the time the Mind Warriors actually showed up, I was in like Flint. I thought it was really cool to think of the Mind Warriors as doppelgangers. I thought that it was an even cooler idea that these imaginary creatures are going to come from Kshin because he's going to understand the team's strength and weaknesses. And that touches on one of the themes of this episode is this identity of the dual self. The Mind Warriors function as that psychological mirror to our heroes. By creating opposites to fight our heroes, this particular show is examining the strengths and flaws of each of the characters like Flash and Lothar and all the others, forcing them essentially to overcome their own worst versions. One of the other themes that was out there was the power and the peril, if you will, of imagination. This was essentially part of a two-part arc that explores Kshin's unique role as both the emotional and creative core of this next generation, while the older heroes are continuing to rely on those established skills. This is another episode that is focusing in on Kshin's untrained imagination, which is shown to be just as powerful as any of the weapons or devices that they use, but it still can be dangerous when unprotected. We have the theme of the cybernetic hijacking. This is highlighting the vulnerability of the Defenders' high-tech infrastructure. Ming's ability to hack into the simulation room again, using, of course, the Star of Mongo crystal, which is one of those created plot devices that you introduce it, you explain what it does, and then you never see it again. It does not play like any type of role. That annoyed me like something else that I'll bring up here in a minute. But we continue to have this recurring warning about the double-edged sword of advanced technology in and around an established universe of established advanced technology, and in addition to the use of AI, which is one of those things where I am finding it's very prevalent to some of the conversations that we're having. I do recognize, of course, that Dynac X has not played as pivotal a part in most of the episodes up until this point. Of course, she's always there, but I do know that it's coming. And so I am looking forward to revisiting those concepts and seeing how they play out as we are dealing with AI. This was another example of a collaborative victory. The resolution requires each generation to contribute their own. As always, Rick is providing the technical rescue. Kshin continues to be the mental boost. The veterans are providing the combat experience. It reinforces the show's theme that only in a unified front can someone like Ming the Merciless be stopped. And I thought that this was a great episode that Miska Bay, the writer, used, where you've got the kids off doing one thing, their own thing, and then you've got the established characters off and doing their own thing, but they're interweaving and they need each other in order to be able to get to a solution. I feel like she has probably been the best writer with the most even approach so far. So again, this ended up being one of those episodes that I really liked. I still don't. I think that Mind Warriors Part 1 was actually better. That one, again, I had said before, it was in my top 5. It's still in my top 5. This is a great episode, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if I would throw it into the top 5. I really like the idea of the real Mind Warriors and the way that it was done. But I still think that Part 1 was a better delivery. However, the one glaring problem that I had with this episode, and I kind of alluded to it with the Star of Mongo, a plot device that is introduced and then never heard from again, just like Ubor. It is so annoying. I thought that it was kind of interesting that he evolved from Zuphoids. As he will say, the visual look was a little questionable, a little awkward, but okay. I mean, if that's what you got to do. But the whole time, the first time that I watched the episode, I kept thinking like, okay, so when is Ubor going to come back? When is he going to impact the episode? So of course, by the second time that I watched the episode, and I'm like, yeah, wow, this guy only shows up for like 2 minutes and then is out. I hate when they do that. Earlier on, at least with Callistro, that was a character that was written into the plot of the story. But, I mean, he was there for more than 2 minutes. So he at least served some bigger purpose to the plot versus Ubor, which literally was just, we need something to get the kids from being lost in the cave to the throne room. And then that was it. Perhaps this character will show up again. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that no, in fact, he will not. As we move into the episode trivia from the DVD, it talks about that this episode is not entirely a sequel to The Mind Warriors, as the two can be watched independently. Yes, they can. I feel like there were definitely, so for example, the warhead. You're going to be like, okay, what the heck is going on? What is this warhead? Where did it come from? What did it do? You need the first episode in order to understand what the warhead is. And the battle simulation device, the override device, you could watch them independently, sure, but the second episode is not going to make any sense or make even less sense. So it is a sequel. I'm going to throw that out there. The sound of Radiarm's laser guns can be heard famously as Megatron's fusion cannon in the Transformers cartoon. And in this episode, the design of the Doomsday warhead is different to the one that appears in Mind Warriors Part 1. I don't think that it's significantly different, but it has a little bit more of a refinement. I suppose that the writers or even an imaginative person could argue and say that in the process of sequencing, setting up the sequence to shut the device down, that maybe one of the characters in the story, be it Rick or even Mongo, Garrick, somebody had made some physical changes to the device in order to, I don't know, make it fly better, make it receive radio waves better. I don't know. But I do think that there was some room in this story for that. And I didn't think that the visual changes were as significant. But yeah, that will close out the episode trivia from the DVD. And in fact, that is going to go ahead and close out my review of the episode Mind Warriors Part 2. The next episode that we are going to run into is The Lost Jewels of Tibet. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Until then.